generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we are talking about the latest season of Tales of. So if you don't know what that is, in the Star Wars realm of things, we've had Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, and now we have Tales of the Underworld. This is the third season of this series, and arguably, this has been, well, the first season of this show was very exciting. Second season was a little bit of a sophomore slump, and then now we have our third season. And so, what we're going to do here is tell you about the show. We're going to go over some of the main points of it, and then also give our thoughts along the way. So, I will just say, initial first impression, I think
This
this was,
is this is with spoilers.
yeah, I would say that this was better than season two, Tales of the Empire. So I felt like Tales of the Empire, we were kind of lied to in a way. Like it really wasn't about the Empire. It was more or less about some stragglers that happened to um, see things within the Empire. Whereas this stayed a bit more true to the characters that we were looking at. I will say, going along the lines of, Underworld, I don't really think Ventress's side of the story really dealt with the Underworld. But Cad Bane, I think his more or less did. Um, the reason why I say that is because Ventress, her arc is essentially, she's at work and then she runs into, I would say he's a Padawan. He looks young enough to be that age, but she runs into a Jedi and she just wants to basically protect him um, during their 3 episodes. And so nothing really happens with the underworld, with like crime and, you know, uh, you know, crazy things that happen within that. I
All
feel
of
like,
episode 2 was about that.
do you want to elaborate? Well, okay, let's go with episode one first, just so we can get that covered, and then you can elaborate on episode two.
All right.
So, episode one is, and I had to pause immediately so I could explain something to Sarah, just because Sarah hasn't seen Clone Wars and she doesn't follow, all the lore. And it does make me wonder how much the casual watcher, like Sarah, would know what's happening right away in the opening scene for Ventress. Because the first 3 episodes are Ventress, and then the second set of 3 episodes is Cad Bane, and they're in no way, shape, or form connected. But Ventress, we have our opening scene of she is being carried in the arms of Quinlan Voss, and he is walking with Kenobi, and they're going to put her to rest, because she has died. And so when they put her in this like mystical water, which is, I think it was Quinlan Voss mentioned this is where Ventress wanted to be laid to rest when she passed away. He was fulfilling one of her final wishes. They were a thing, they were a couple together. And so that's kind of where that connection is coming from. She does have kind of an out of body experience where she's like, why can't I go with you? Blah, blah, blah. And then she kind of hears, some of the echoes of the witches of the past that are part of her group. And what she learns is that if she wants to be resurrected, she has to trade what she desires most, and which is Quinlan Voss. So she does get revived. This is, how we connect what she did in the Clone Wars time frame to how is she now in post Revenge of the Sith time frame. And then,
To touch on what you were saying about the casual watcher and whatnot of I wouldn't have known who that was that carried her there, but she does explain later that she's looking for him.
Right, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, if she had to trade him to come back, wouldn't he be dead?
I don't think it was necessarily that he's dead. I think it's just that like almost like a Spider-Man situation where their minds are wiped. They don't know you.
Hmm. Yeah,
At least
okay.
that's how I interpreted it.
I interpret it as a life for a life, but maybe. The rest of episode one, we find out that Ventress is kind of working as a security guard for a transport lady. Like, people pay her and then they can hop on a ship and go somewhere. And a child or a teenager is trying to go off world, says, I have this much money, can I go? And she said, the worker there, the owner, she says, you don't have enough, so no. And there's an Imperial presence on the planet, and he's trying to like persuade her with Jedi mind trick, and Ventress is taking note of that. And so she realizes, oh, this is a Jedi on the run. And so when she sees the Imperial presence, she basically takes up the idea of protecting this kid. So when the Empire tries to break in and take the kid, both him and Ventress take out all the Imperial soldiers. Even though they did try to send them away, use like Ventress used the Jedi mind trick, but things got hostile anyways. So they do that, and then I'm pretty sure don't they get away, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then,
They they have a bit of a shootout, and then there's some other, I don't know what he is. I'm just gonna call him a bounty hunter because he was trying to chase after the kid. And so they have a big showdown as the kid is trying to escape onto the shuttle, and Ventress is battling this other guy with a red lightsaber.
okay, so that was this episode. For some reason, I thought that was a different episode, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that was an Inquisitor, and we could tell by the lightsaber. It's the circled, spinny lightsaber that can act as a helicopter.
Yep.
Um, so there was an Inquisitor after this Jedi, and between the Padawan and Ventress, they are able to take down this dude, which is kind of sad because I like exploring some of these bad guys. I think that was the first time we've ever seen this one, and right away, gone.
Yeah.
So,
They escape on the shuttle after that scuffle, and that's how the episode ends.
so what? How does the Underworld connect to episode two?
So this Jedi is on he's trying to find like the path, right? Or master path, I think it's called, something like that. Um his way to escape to freedom, and he's claiming that they can help Ventress too, if they could find this path together. And she says, "Well, I know a friend, or I know somebody who has some intel, and it's another bounty hunter." And so they go to this other planet to go find her for the intel. And this is, I think, where the underworld stuff kind of goes on, is she's really sketchy. She's in some sort of a fighting club. There's it reminded me a lot of the planet where in the Kenobi show, where he goes
Hmm.
to find uh
Yeah.
Princess Leia, and there's just sketchy stuff going on everywhere. It reminded me a lot of that planet. Um Very classic, I'll help you, but you have to do this for me first situation. This happens a couple times actually, but in this particular situation, she um I think the proper word is mercenary, where she's just kind of for hire. This other lady that they're helping.
Yes and no. I mean, mercenary, it's similar to like a bounty hunter, but mercenary is just a hired gun,
Mm,
essentially.
I gotcha. Well, they have to steal something from the Empire, and I don't quite remember if it was like intel or what, some sort of data pad or something or other. And stuff doesn't go according to plan because it never does, right? And so this other lady that is supposed to be helping them had first tried to tell the young Jedi don't trust Ventress, you should be with me. Ventress also tells him, like, I don't, like, even though I know that lady, in this world, in this type of world, the underworld, you don't really have friends. You can't really trust anybody. And so he's having kind of an identity crisis of what do I do? Who do I go with? Who do I trust? I don't really know either of these people very well. Um, but because that data pad gets lost in the scuffle of things, the other bounty hunter lady tells her associate just take the Jedi and kill Ventress essentially because I'd rather get something than leave here with nothing.
Right, because during this time frame, if you found a Jedi, there is a high reward.
Yeah. So that doesn't go according to plan because Ventress is kick butt, and so she and the Jedi get the information that they need, be it by holding them at, my goodness, I almost said laser point. That would be ridiculous. Where's my brain? Holding him at lightsaber up the neck. Why don't you take it from here?
So I was waiting for you to finish it off. But for the end of episode two,
I think that basically is the end of episode 2, isn't it?
thought so. Yeah, I can cover episode three. Episode three, Ventress and our new character, I forget what his name is. Starts with an L.
Lyco?
Lyco. Lyco is the young Jedi. So they're off, and Ventress, they're looking for water. They're trekking through this desert basically, and
I think their ultimate goal is to find the path, and they stumble across this like little farm, and Lyco wants to ask for directions.
yep, and when they get up to the door, they are reluctant. There's a kid that even aims a blaster at them, but Ventress uses the Force, of course, to stop them. And even though the kid is very alert and, not trusting of the two, the elderly dude inside is like, well, if they're a Jedi, just let them come in. We'll see what everything is all about. And what we find out is that this is an old general for the Separatists. Which, if you don't know what that is or who it is, that is the side that Ventress fought on in the Clone Wars. The droids, Count Dooku, they were the Separatists. So this general is, you know, has a connection to Ventress and actually likes Ventress. And so what's interesting is that Ventress is kind of this character that is starting to change her mind on the way she sees the world, whereas this guy that they just met is kind of stuck in his old ways. And what they decide to do, being Ventress and Lyco, they have to, and also the little girl, they all go on this little journey to gather some water, so that they can all have water. It's the desert, they don't have much. And so when they go to,
This was another, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. My granddaughter can show you the way to the path, but you need to help her get water because of the bandits.
which is very typical for these animated shows, it seems like it's a very time filler type strategy. But they go to find some water, it's in a pond, and when they gather the water, they find out that there's a whole bunch of, I don't really know what race or species they were. I'll just call them creatures because I don't know. But there's tons and tons of creatures that show up that attack our group, and while defending themselves, Lyco basically discovers that, hey, we're stealing their resources. We shouldn't be attacking them. They're just defending what's theirs. And so that kind of creates a change of heart for Ventress as well. So she sees what Lyco's point of view is. And what ends up happening is that we see, like, the initial thing that we see is all these creatures on top of the little speeder that Ventress, Lyco, and the little girl had, and they're speeding back towards the house that the old man is at. And the old man sees these creatures approaching him and he draws his blaster, but then he sees the three that he sent out to go get the water. And we have another change of heart scene where he's like, I don't trust them. And then he finds out that Lyco is a Jedi and he's pointing the gun at Lyco. And, it's that turning point for him after once being a separatist general slash leader is now, realizing that the people that were on the other side probably weren't that bad, even though he was led to believe that they were. So they get the water there, and then Ventress takes Lyco down this path. He's supposed to get on a ship to leave, and as she's watching the ship, Lyco comes back and is like, I couldn't leave my friend, which has been kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing the whole time because Ventress keeps saying she has no friends. Um, and that's basically the end of their arc. And Ventress is still on the lookout for Quinlan Voss.
Well, I think they kind of end it with, you could have gone on that ship and possibly gone to find him, and she's giving up on that and wanting to just move on.
Yeah, and then eventually we see her in the Bad Batch to continue her journey.
Right.
And then we flipped over to Cad Bane's side of things, and
Yeah. So to your point about the underworld, I'll admit it wasn't a ton with her, but there was at least some.
I feel like if she had more of a mission where she was on Coruscant and going literally in the underworld and doing some sort of mission between crime lords and crime bosses, I think that would have been more geared towards the underworld. I don't know. I think Cad Bane's side of things was way more along those lines,
I would
um,
agree.
which the first of the three episodes for Cad Bane is when Cad Bane is a child. So we see him with a friend running around streets, and this guy sees them doing some mischief and believes that they could help him out. And at first, he kind of looks like he's Cad Bane, but he's not. Like, because he's wearing the hat, he's got the toothpick. Um, but he doesn't quite look like Cad Bane. So that's what told me, that wasn't him. And also, Cad Bane, I think he's going by a different name, like his actual name during this episode. At least I didn't hear him called Cad Bane at all.
I think it's Colby.
Oh yeah, because I was thinking about the cheese, Colby Jack. So this older guy basically wraps them into a mission where they try to, trick the person running a local like gambling place. And during this mission, Cad Bane's friend does get caught and is taken away by the police. And when Cad Bane is, going away with the group that he is now a part of, they do say, even though your friend got caught, that doesn't mean that his share doesn't get accounted for and you get both your shares. So Cad Bane ended up getting double the money from this mission. So this is kind of like his introduction to the underworld and becoming a bounty hunter. Um, what I think is pretty interesting the rest of the way is arguably Cad Bane is one of the most westerny type characters in all of Star Wars. And this arc definitely feels like a western, in my opinion. He's growing up as a kid, he sees the good and the bad of this crime life, and then when episode two comes around, Cad Bane, he reunites with some of his friends, but there's some bad things that come about. His friend ends up being part of I think the friend that got taken in prisoner. He is now working for the police of the planet. Um, did you want to cover episode two? Wait, I'm not talking the whole time.
I think we may have skipped over Laszlo's death here. So Laszlo, or Cad Bane's mentor, if you will, he didn't return from one of his missions, and
Yeah.
they find out from his partner that he was killed. And so he does, I think that's the primary reason why Cad Bane is going back to that planet to try to figure out what happened to him.
Yep.
And that's when he figures out that his old friend, who is Nero. I did a lot better with names in this one than I did with the Ventress story. But that's when he finds out that Nero's with the police. And so it's kind of a I don't want you to cause any trouble because I'm trying to make things good here. And Cad Bane saying, I don't want you to cause any trouble, so just stay out of the way and let me do my thing because I'm going to do it anyway. So there's a big power struggle between these two old friends who are total opposites now than when they were kids. Um, I think around this time is when Cad Bane finds out that the deputy or like the sheriff is who actually killed Laszlo, and so that's who he's going after to hunt him down. He's got a lady friend with him. I think her name is Erin. I might have that wrong. What is I don't remember her name. I'm just going off the IMDb list, so I feel like that's not her name. Here I am saying I did better with names and I don't remember her name. But anyway, there was this lady who was like kind of looking after Cad Bane when Laszlo would leave. It seemed like more of a motherly figure, but it might have been more like a sister figure or something. I don't entirely know what their relationship was, but they were close. We kind of I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. We end this episode with a shootout with the sheriff. And although Cad lands a shot on the sheriff and takes him down, the sheriff also takes a shot and it hits Cad Bane's lady friend, sister, friend, whoever, the girlfriend.
Pretty sure it's girlfriend, not sister.
I couldn't really, well, because Laszlo was saying, like, look after him, like, as if it was like a motherly type figure.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
So the reason why I would think it'd be I don't know. I I think it's a lady friend, and the reason why I think that is because I think it adds a little extra flair to the final episode when he finds out that she's with what's his face, the friend.
Nero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards that too. I just couldn't quite tell. But so she gets a shot taken, and this makes Cad really mad, and so he wants to shoot at Nero or like do something to take him out or just do some sort of revenge because she's hurt, and although it was only a shoulder wound, she's claiming that she like can't get back to the ship like as if her legs are broken or something. I didn't fully understand that because like I get that you just got shot, but it was in the shoulder, not like in the gut or somewhere more critical, so that was a little weird. But she takes away Cad Bane's gun, so he basically has no choice but to surrender because he doesn't have any weapons anymore. And I think this kind of leads to him being a little bit smarter when he becomes a bounty hunter later because, how did the girl take your only gun? Like, come on now. You didn't have another one hiding in your boot or something?
Yeah. Well, I would also I- I know they only have 3 episodes that they work with, but one of the things I wish they would have shown, and I know we still got episode 3 to talk about, but one of the things I wish they would have shown is how he got the tubes
Oh yeah.
that he has. He has them so that if he's dealing with a Jedi or a dark Jedi, if they try to force choke him, he has those tubes to continue breathing. So that's kind of like a way for him to, outsmart different people he might meet. And so it made me wonder, well, why did he get those things?
I did not know that.
And maybe that's covered in a different episode, like during the Clone Wars, but I forgot anyways. Uh, the third episode and final episode of the group, it's called One Good Deed. And this is Cad Bane going to, uh, it's him going to settle the score with his buddy, right?
He's getting released from prison.
Yeah, and his buddy is now the marshal, Nero. And so he's going back there to try to take care of business. Not only did he put him in jail, but he took his girl.
Yep. So a little bit of this episode is spent just seeing what Nero was up to, the fact that he's Marshall, that he's with the girl now, that they have a son. Um, a lot of the townspeople really don't like him and are telling him like have a drink on me at the bar because this will be your last one because they know I don't it's like a mix of we know that Cad Bane's coming, but also we don't like you, so we're not going to support you or try to help you or anything because we don't want to cross Cad Bane. Um, I were you getting those same vibes?
Hmm.
Okay. I don't remember there being a whole lot more to this episode other than the actual standoff. Am I missing anything by going straight to the standoff?
No.
Okay. Well, we have our Western shooter standoff. Of course, in classic fashion, Nero told the kid to stay away. The kid didn't stay away, so that's when Cad Bane finds out he's got a kid, because, kids get in the way of everything. So that just adds a whole level of complexity to this. And it's Cad Bane. You're not going to make it away from this. He's got way too much experience, even if he's been rotting in prison for the last however many years, or rotations, if you will. So of course he makes a shot. Why wouldn't he? That's when I guess one thing that Nero said before the actual shootout was that he tried to convince him that the lady was dead instead of I took your girl. It's she's been dead for years. So when he does make that shot and Nero's gone, and the kid runs up crying, that's when he finds out that the girl is alive and she just tells him just to get out of here. And that's pretty much the end of the episode.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting shot when Cad Bane kills Nero and then he finds out about the kid, like he sees the kid crying over his dad's body. It seemed like Cad Bane had a little bit of emotion there. Um, Maybe tearing up or just getting hit in the feels about what he just did. But I think that also starts to train him to be a little bit more battle hardened when, he goes to make those kinds of decisions down the road where it doesn't quite affect him emotionally as much.
Yeah. They had talked in their first episode about do you miss your parents? And I think it was Cad who said like, well, I don't even really know them, so no. And so maybe this was kind of a moment of him reflecting on like, I might not have known them, but I kind of wish I did.
Yeah, could be. Or also kind of going along those lines, um, he knew what it was like to grow up without parents, and now here he is taking away another kid's parent.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we could, go down that rabbit hole with how that played out with Cad Bane's emotions.
For
Uh,
me personally, just kind of as like an overall how I felt about these episodes compared to the other seasons. This is probably my favorite series so far. The Tales of the Jedi, I had a really hard time following what was going on. I could tell with the Ahsoka stuff, and I could follow her storyline, but I think the other character was Dooku, wasn't it?
yep,
Yeah, that one I really struggled hard with understanding what was going on and who was who, and people looking very similar, and just not really understanding the politics side of things with that. So that one really wasn't one of my favorites.
which is exactly why it is my favorite. The Dooku storyline has been my favorite.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I like loved the Ahsoka one. It's just it was okay. The Tales of the Empire one, that one I also think was okay. We had don't remember who our characters were.
We had an Inquisitor
Yep.
and
Oh, Morgan Elsbeth.
oh yeah,
Yep. So two people, the Inquisitor, I didn't really know her. Like I didn't really know a whole lot about her, I should say. And Morgan Elsbeth we had seen from
Mando.
Mando. Thank you. I knew it was a recent show. Again, that season had kind of hit just mid for me. Like it wasn't that great, but it wasn't that awful either.
And
And at least,
also, the focus really wasn't on Empire characters. Like, yes,
yeah,
Inquisitors are part of it, but that's not really what you think of when you hear Empire. And also, Lady Elsbeth, her character is like, as far as what we had been already exposed to, post-Empire stuff. So it's
yeah.
like I understand. I kind of wondered, how did she come into this position when we met her in Mando? But Tales of the Empire, there's definitely better stories that probably could have been told under that umbrella. I think she could have had something else, like Tales of the Witches or something, because she's from the Witches. That
Yeah.
might even be like a better area for where Ventress should have landed. I don't know. Um, just because even I think it was the opening sequence of Elsbeth's was with Ventress's people.
I don't quite recall that specific detail, but
That the opening scene was when Grievous led the Separatist attack against her people on their planet of Dathomir and then slaughtered them. And that's why they hate Jedi, because they associate lightsabers with Jedi, even though he wasn't one.
I gotcha. But yeah, I would agree. It wasn't super focused on Empire when it's supposed to be Tales of the Empire.
Right.
With Tales of the Underworld, I can see your point about Ventress not being super underworld focused and Cad Bane being more focused on the underworld, but I would at least say I found both their arcs enjoyable and like I actually wanted to keep watching instead of being so bored or not understanding what's going on. And I think that's really important coming from a casual watcher type standpoint, as you mentioned, of, I know of these characters. I know some about them. I've seen Cad Bane quite a bit more, I think, than Ventress, but I have seen her in a handful of things, just not I don't have a deep understanding of these characters. I just kind of know of them and I've seen them a time or two here or there. And for me to be able to follow their storylines and not have it be overly complicated, I really appreciated that.
You know who I think I've thought of two other options that probably would have been a better fit than Ventress. One, the Hutts. I think that would have been a cool story to see. Or two, Chrysanthemum. I think that would have been a cool one to see as well. Do you remember that? He's the
Yeah,
Wookiee that
um,
was with the Hutts.
I remember him, yes. I'm trying to figure out if there's a major difference between Underworld and just crime lords because
Not really.
they're pretty much one and the same.
Yeah.
I I don't have a whole lot more to say than that, I guess. I feel like Underworld might be a little more focused on I work for myself, not I work for somebody else, or I'll work for anybody, not just one particular crime family. Or at least that's kind of what I got out of this season.
Yeah, they were very independent. I would agree with that. All right, well, that was our little discussion on Tales of the Underworld. Do we know how often these have been released? Like, has it been
Every other
yearly?
year, the month has been very sporadic.
Every other year?
Yes.
Dang, with them only doing like an hour worth of content, you would think they could do one every year, but it seems like it was yesterday that the Empire one came out, but I don't know. Clearly not.
Oc
Um,
October of 23, I believe, is when that one came out.
gotcha. All right, well,
Oh, wait a minute. I might be thinking of hold on here. No,
no.
Tales of the Empire was last year. I am so sorry. I was getting confused with Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Visions was every other year. Tales of the Empire was 2024, and Tales of the Jedi was 2022. So
Hmm.
22, 24, 25.
Well, maybe we'll get another one next year. Who knows? I have been enjoying them, so I would welcome it. I just what I really want is a little more of a complex story. Like I think Cad Bane's was pretty good in that sense. I just think Ventress's wasn't as involved. It seemed more simplistic. Um,
Hers was very much Bad Batch style episode telling of fetch quests.
yeah, exactly. And I want something that like really builds some lore. Like when I saw that they were showing Quinlan Voss and Obi-Wan, going to lay her to rest, I was thinking like, whoa, are we gonna get something here where maybe, we see some of that stuff with Ventress and Quinlan Voss like in flashback form, or like we're seeing the end of her right here, what happened in the past that led up to this point. But really it was a connection between where we left her during this time period and how do we connect her to her appearance in the Bad Batch. So I
Yeah,
get it, but I think there could have been a little more compelling story there.
I would agree.
Cad Bane, I would say, was pretty good though. So, all right. Well, if you enjoy this type of discussion, make sure to come back and see our other Star Wars videos. We have been covering Andor as well. And then, of course, any of the other shows that'll be popping up in the future, we'll cover them as well. So, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, drop us a like if you like the video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on the new Tales of the Underworld season. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.